Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about one thing I'm quite interested in, that is lighting. I've titled the video "What is the best light for portraits?" This is a bit of a trick this is a bit of a trick question because there is not one light that suits all subjects or all faces if I'm talking about portrait lighting. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'll do a series of shorter videos discussing the different groups of lights which I use, but in this video I'll quickly try and go through all the different lights that I use very briefly, just to give you some indication that you don't need a super expensive light to make pretty portraits or edgy portraits or classic portraits, whatever look that you're going for. I guess I'll start with the most wacky. What I'll do, I'm surrounded by lights as well, so what I'll do, I'll take the camera off the tripod and do a whiz round and talk you through some of the lights that are around that you can't see from this position. So let's start firstly. I'm sitting on the floor because I thought it'd be easier to have all the lights around me and then I can show the lights. So first, the most wacky, maybe the most unusual lights that you wouldn't think to necessarily buy, and I don't suggest you do buy them, but if you are a cyclist like me, then you may enjoy lights. As a cyclist in the winter, you're relying on lights to both be seen and to see. So over the years, you start to collect a lot of lights. I also use these lights for my portraits. These are very small but quite high power, kind of equivalent to spotlights. These turn in the middle. So I've used these before for spotlights. I've used this as like a fill light. One of my earlier videos I used this to light myself as like a side light or a hair light. And this is I guess a bigger version of this, like a softer, bigger light. So the first option is bike lights if you're a cyclist. If you're a fell runner or ultra runner, I know there's not probably that many of us. I haven't got it over there, but you can use a head torch as well. Obviously you don't need it on your head when you're taking pictures, but you can just wrap the cord around a light stand or I don't know, a fixture in the room you're working in and use that as a spotlight to light your model. Why would I use these over professional studio lights? When I travel abroad, these are smaller, so they fit in my bag easy, and they're USB charging, so it's really easy. So option one, the most wacky one, any lights you can find. It doesn't have to be a bike light, but it doesn't basically, it doesn't need to be a light which is designed for photography. There's a light just off camera here which is just basically bulbs which you could use in a house or something like this. And over here I've got halogen work lamps. I'll show you that as well in a second. So all of those are lights not designed for photography, but I use them for photography. It's a good way to cut costs. If you want continuous lighting, all of the lights I've shown you or spoke about are continuous lighting. The bike lights and off camera I'll show you in a minute. When it comes to flash lighting, as you may think of it, you tend to use, the most common thing is speed lights. These three are kind of your classic size speed lights. Sometimes I use quite a large group of lights to make the effect I want, or say for a wedding, if I want to rig up a room, I'll set up loads of speed lights and then I can just do it all off camera and basically mock daylight with speed lights. That's why I have many, and also over the years you collect. These are Yongnuo Osborne. I used to use these before Godox kind of hit the market as like an early adopter, and I've got lots of different versions, and then these were some of the latest before I switched to Godox, so I use these less now, but they are still good lights, and they are either 4AA usually, or the later ones had like a lithium ion battery. If something like this is, if you're trying to travel super light and a big normal size speed light is too big, your next option is a smaller speed light. Now these are Godox 350 TTs. I can use one on camera to trigger one off camera, or I can have them both off camera and fire them with Godox triggers. I use, as a Leica photographer, excuse me bending now, I tend to use this style of lights, this style of trigger, which is either the, trying to get it right, XT16 or FT16 I believe. XT16 is the newer one, FT16 is the older one. You need, depending on which lights you use, you might be able to still use the older ones with the lights you're looking to buy. So I prefer these for Leica photography and any camera, to be honest. If I needed more, I also use these, but I tend to use these on larger cameras such as a Nikon F5 or something like this. One's a trigger, one's a receiver. The reason I'd use this is you can use any speedlight, like a vintage speedlight, with a receiver, and once you attach it to a hot shoe, this trigger will fire any speedlight attached to this. So this is good if you want to make the most of maybe some old speedlights that you've perhaps been given, or you've just started to get into wireless photography. With the newer lights, such as these Godox 350 TTs, the trigger, they work as a trigger and a receiver built into the units, so you don't need additional receiver units to go on the bottom, which is what we used to use. Smaller speedlights are good for travel, for me particularly, and if you don't need so much power. So UK grey days and UK winters or European winters, you can easily get away with smaller speedlights. They take 2 AA batteries, so they're really simple to use. Okay, so we've done big speedlights, small speedlights, and continuous lighting. Well, if you need more power, one of the earlier Godox models before they went crazy popular with the AD180 and the AD360. Now this is a light unit with a separate battery pack. This is the one off the 180, I'm not sure where it is. It says Lancaster, but it's all the same underneath. These are really good if you want lots of power, but the problem is it was too much to carry in my bag if I wanted to travel light. So I use this more in the UK, but I use it less when I'm shooting abroad. So these are the early Godox lights. Amazing for weddings because they have so much power in these battery packs. You can just be like blasting light out. Pretty much, like, I don't use full power because it takes longer to recycle, but you can use half power or use 2, and you just blast in so much light out. You can shoot at f8 or something. The whole ceremony. I used to do Asian weddings a lot more, where there's less restrictions on kind of the lighting you can use. And so, unlike a church wedding where you may not be able to use any lights in England, with an Asian style wedding, they're all quite more glitzy and there seems less regulation, so then you could really fire tons of light at it, and then you could shoot at ISO 100, ISO 200 and get super crisp images and make it look like it's daylight, even though it would be normally a dark hall because of the high number of guests at the wedding. So excellent for event photography, these big Godox lights. Right, the newer Godox light, and this is the new one. I've got an AD800. I thought this was it, but it's not. This is another Godox. This is a Godox V52, excuse me, which is similar to a Yongnuo. But the advantage of it being Godox is you can fire it from Godox triggers. The other advantage of the Godox ones is they have the built-in lithium-ion batteries, so you get a lot of fires, a lot of full power shots from one of these units. So this is a standard speedlight, different to the AD180, which may be discontinued now, and the AD360, which is a head unit and a battery pack. The difference between the AD Godox lights, sorry the noises, is this is a flat head speedlight. This is an open bulb design. Open bulb designs are much better if you're trying to fill a light modifier. I'll go into that into more detail when I do reviews on the individual lights. The light between the V850 and or Ving, sometimes they call it, and the AD360 is the AD200, which is basically a straight light like this I'm not sure where it is. I'll show it you in a later review. And then it's got the bulb sticking out the top like that. So this is good because you have no battery pack. The battery pack is built in like on this light, but you have an open bulb design at the top. This is really useful if you want high power and no kind of cables and no separate battery pack. So I tend to use the AD200 a lot if I want a really clean setup but lots of power. And then I tend to use the Godox 350 TTs if I can use less power. That's most of the lights which are on the floor. I'll show the modifiers, then I'll do a whirl around at the end. So in terms of modifiers, this is a Speedlight clamp which you use to clip on softboxes. It's a bow and S mount, which is a common design for most of the, or many of the lights that I try to buy. So I try to buy everything with the same fitting. Rather than put a lot of pressure onto the hot shoe and then have a huge modifier attached to the head, which I used to do in the early days, what happens is you end up ripping the mount out of the unit and it stops working. So I'd highly recommend buying these style of holders, and then there's no pressure on the light unit and it fills your modifier. Your modifier would be on the front like so. You can even use it, I use it if I'm shooting a bare flash like this, I'll even use it bare flash because you can obviously adjust the angle and there's no weight being put onto this part, which is the weakest part I find of the units. So in terms of mounting, I use these bow and S mounts, which come free with most Godox softboxes. I'll put a link below this video of a blog review I've already done of the most common lights that I use. And if you buy something like a 60x60 Godox softbox, you get these free. So it's worth getting just for this. Other types of modifiers. If you want soft light, you use shoot-through umbrellas. It's an easy way to, if you bounce a small light into a big white light source, it comes out as a big light source. So that's a good way to get like big softer lighting or shoot through it. Again, I'll do this in more detail in another video. Then, if you want to control the light, you can use things like, which are called snoops, which basically makes a small spot of light. Or you can use grids, which, depending on the size of the hole, makes a big circle of light, or a more controlled kind of tighter, more like this, more like a snoot. I use different ones depending on if I'm working with a smaller space and I'm really trying to spotlight certain areas of either the model or the scene that I'm working with. So these are lighting modifiers. You can use the modifiers with any of these. I'll just show you an example. If the Speedlight goes into here like so, clamp it down. Then you get your snoot. So now I can use any of the lights I've just shown you and control it as a tight spot of light. Or all I do is take this off and put a normal standard reflector on and put this on, for example. But, this is how I control my light if I want it much tighter. So if you see my images on Flickr and I'm using maybe a dark scene and then carefully controlled areas of light, it's possible that I'm using this style of lighting, where I'm using flags or barn doors or grids to control the spill of the light to stop it just going everywhere. Lastly, before I take the camera off the hot shoe, off the tripod, this is a beauty dish. I used to use it a lot, but now I tend to be quite simple with my photography, and I just, I don't know, I tend to use modifiers a lot less now, but I do a lot of bare ball photography. I do a lot of bounce light photography, and maybe I'm lazy, but the more you do photography and the more you do flash, you realise you really don't need very expensive lighting. You don't need your £1,000 light modifiers. Yes, they look amazing, and yes, they'll give you good results, but you can still get good results with a DIY light setup. So I'm surrounded by crazy things, so I'll take the camera off the tripod and I'll just pan around, and I'll point out some of the lights which are in the room. Oh, there's also, this is a hot light. This is an Arri 650 tungsten hot light. So if you want to have like mimic the sun, this is a great light because it's the tungsten orange colour and gives the kind of look that you want. They do get very hot though, so you have to be a bit more careful. When I take the, I can show you one more. I also use little LED lights like this. There's two lighting me at the moment, so I'll show you as I pan the camera around. They seem very popular with YouTubers, so I kind of had to, after teaching myself YouTubing or how to kind of do the basic videos, I bought myself some of these lights to try to make the videos more interesting, and then I'm also using them for photography. I mean, you can see the nice glow off the fire, but if you've got a keen eye, you'll notice the fire's pretty much died down, but I still got a nice glow. So like, how does that work? So you basically just cheat. Just like my nice fire glow. I'm going to do a review on these lights. There's one on the camera and there's these two. Sometimes called RGB lights or bicolor lights. Very popular for video, but I've been using them for photography. Okay, let me unclip and I'll show you around. Okay, so I'm still here. Excuse the triple chin. And then what I'll do, so I've got it handheld, so I'll put it onto the widest setting and show you what's behind me. I leave this set up all the time. This is just a studio light set up into a, I don't know what brand it is. I don't think it's got a brand on it, but one of these like eBay, they're called parabolic reflectors, which is basically a deep umbrella. By this it means it's much deeper and so it controls the light better. I leave this set up in the studio and it's quite handy. So studio lights, if you're in a permanent position, having mains powered, kind of plugged into the wall, lights like this, it'll work as a strobe. I haven't got a trigger with me to fire it, but it'll flash if you want high power. And then I use the modelling lights just for photography on their own. So that's one example. If I pan around and get my chin off camera. Right, so if I pan around, these are DIY lights I accidentally saw in a supermarket. I couldn't resist. So these are my lights which I'm using to light the YouTube videos. And all I'm doing is bounce them into a standard, reasonably large silver umbrella. And down here you've got a 5-in-1 reflector where I've taken off the cover and then I use that as a diffuser if I want a diffuser. Excuse the wires. Up here you've got a studio light with a grid on, ready to go. And it's also got a really deep, it's a bit like a mole light, but not as fancy. It's called like a magnum reflector, which means the light will be tighter and go really far, or as far as the power will let it go. That will give you a tight control of light and lots of power to travel the furthest distance. This is a portable Godox light. It's one of the early versions. I don't think you can buy it anymore, but it's got like a small camera battery, if you can see it down there. Small, like half-size car battery. This is high power, but it's portable. The studio lights are high power, and this is 30 watts. This is high power, but these are mains powered. So mains, portable. That's a strip box, and it's again got a cheap studio light in, which studio light basically means it'll work as it's the same as this. So it's got a modelling light, but it also flashes if you want the kind of the high power. And in front of me, if I get down to where I'm sitting, so these are daylight balanced bulbs. So when I was doing my video, those are the lights which are lighting my face. I'm trying to pan around and actually 10 things at once and struggling. Why is there a strange bit of cardboard? I was using this to flag this light so that this light didn't spill onto this wall, meaning you could see the fire better. and I could use this to control to give me camera effect lighting. So before I switch off, here's some of the lights that I gathered to show you. There are a lot more, but it's supposed to be a short video. Okay, so just to finish off, that was a quick overview of some of the lights that I use and some of the modifiers. It's supposed to be like an introduction video, and then I'll do individual reviews on the different groups of lights with example images of how I use them with models in like real life situations rather than just hang a handful of lights. So I've got all make now, so I'm going to put the camera down. But I hope you found some use out of this video. More coming soon. Thanks, bye.